Welcome to Dreamy Old Stories. Here we tell slow and gentle tales from history. Stories that calm your mind and help you fall asleep. If you enjoy the journey, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin tonight's dreamy story. As the story continues, the pace remains slow and unhurried. There is no rush, only the quiet passing of time. You may listen closely, or simply let the sounds fade as the night gently moves forward. We begin by remembering where we last paused. We moved slowly through the towns, spaces, and lives, noticing how night shaped experience differently for each person. Now, we turn our attention to something less visible, but always present: sound. After sunset, when sight weakens, hearing quietly takes its place. In medieval towns, night is never truly silent. Instead, it is filled with softened, reshaped sound. Without daylight noise, every small sound feels clearer, more defined. People do not strain to hear. Sound simply arrives, carried gently through the dark. Inside homes, the first sound most people notice is the fire. The hearth settles into a low rhythm, which shifts. Embers collapse inward. This sound is steady and reassuring. It signals warmth and continuity. When it fades too much, someone notices, even in sleep. Breathing becomes another presence. In shared sleeping spaces, it creates a slow pattern. Inhale, exhale. A quiet chorus of rest. This sound anchors people to one another. It reminds them they are not alone in the dark. Outside, the town's sounds thin out but do not disappear. Footsteps are rare, but when they occur, they carry far. Stone streets amplify movement. A single step echoes between walls. Because of this, people learn to recognize familiar patterns: the pace of the watchman, the careful walk of a neighbor. Sound becomes a form of identification. Animals contribute quietly to the night's soundscape. A dog shifts position. A horse stamps in its stall. Rats move softly along walls. These sounds are known and expected. When they follow familiar patterns, they are ignored. When they change, they are noticed. Wind plays an important role. It moves through narrow streets, around corners, and across rooftops. It lifts loose shutters. It presses against doors. These sounds can feel close and distant at the same time. People learn to distinguish wind from movement. Weather from intention. Church bells are rare at night, but when they sound, they carry weight. A bell after dark signals urgency. Fire, death. Emergency. Its sound spreads quickly, cutting through sleep and stillness. Because it is rare, it is respected. People respond without panic, guided by habit. Most nights, however, bells remain silent. Instead, the town listens to itself. The absence of sound becomes meaningful. A lack of footsteps. No raised voices. This quiet confirms safety. Silence becomes information. In the dark, people also become more aware of their own sounds. Coughing is suppressed. Objects are moved carefully. Doors are opened slowly. Noise is not forbidden, but it is managed. Respect for others, rest governs behavior more effectively than rules. Taverns, when opened briefly after sunset, contain their sound carefully. Thick walls hold voices inside. Laughter is muted. Music, if present, is soft and unambitious. No one seeks to be heard far away. Night discourages display beyond the walls. The countryside offers a different soundscape. Night insects, distant animals, wind across open ground. these sounds rarely reach deep into town, but when they do, they remind people of the wider world. The walls feel more important when outside sounds are heard. For those awake at night, sound becomes a guide. It tells them where they are, what is happening, what can be ignored. Listening replaces looking. Awareness sharpens without effort. Children are taught this early. They are told to listen before reacting, to pause, to recognize familiar sounds. Night trains patience as much as it trains caution as we rest here. Listening gently to the medieval night, we begin to understand that sound does more than fill silence. It creates orientation. It provides reassurance. It carries meaning when light cannot. We will continue listening, focusing more closely on unusual sounds, sudden noises, and how medieval towns learned to interpret and respond to them without fear or haste. As the night deepens, sound takes on a different quality. It becomes more selective. Ordinary noises fade into the background, while unusual ones rise gently to attention. Medieval townspeople do not react quickly to these changes. They listen first. They allow the sound to exist for a moment before deciding what it means. A sudden noise after sunset is not automatically alarming. A dropped object, a startled animal, a gust of wind catching loose wood. These things are common. Experience teaches that most sounds have simple explanations. Panic wastes energy, and energy is precious. When an unfamiliar sound occurs, the response is usually stillness. People pause their movement. Breathing slows. Ears focus. This moment of waiting is important. It separates imagination from reality. Often, the sound does not repeat. When it does, its pattern reveals its nature. Footsteps are among the most carefully interpreted sounds at night. Their rhythm matters. A steady pace suggests routine. An uneven one suggests caution or fatigue. A hurried rhythm may indicate urgency, but not necessarily danger. People listen for direction as well as speed. Is the sound approaching or passing by? Is it alone or accompanied? Voices are treated similarly. Tone matters more than words. A calm voice reassures even if it cannot be clearly understood. A strained or raised voice draws attention. Yet even then, response is measured. Someone may listen from behind a door. Another may wake a neighbor quietly. Rarely does anyone shout into the dark. Sounds that repeat nightly fade into acceptance. A loose shutter, a creaking beam, a distant animal call. These become part of the town's nighttime identity. People expect them. They notice their absence more than their presence. Silence where sound should be can feel more unsettling than noise itself. Fire is listened to carefully. The crackle of wood is comforting, but a sudden change in sound is noticed immediately. A pop too sharp. A collapse too loud. Fire is both friend and threat. Its voice is always monitored, even in sleep. Water sounds also guide awareness. A steady flow from a nearby stream or fountain reassures. Sudden splashing may draw attention, not out of fear, but curiosity. Water is essential, and its behavior matters. In shared homes, sound becomes a form of communication. A shift in breathing signals wakefulness. A quiet movement suggests a need. Words are not always necessary. Night favors subtlety. People learn to understand one another through minimal cues. For the night watch, sound is primary. Sight is limited. Lanterns reveal only fragments. The watchman listens for changes. an unfamiliar rhythm, a sound where none should be. His job is not to confront immediately, but to confirm. He may pause longer than expected. This patience prevents mistakes. When truly concerning sounds occur, responses are communal rather than individual. A cry brings more listening before movement. A bell, if rung, gathers attention quickly. These shared responses prevent isolation. No one is expected to face the night alone. Children learn these patterns gradually. At first, they fear sudden noises. Over time, they learn to distinguish. Parents explain calmly. This sound is the wind. That one is the fire. Understanding replaces fear. Nighttime sound also shapes memory. People remember nights by what they heard, rather than what they saw. A quiet night. A restless one. A night interrupted by rain or wind. These memories are carried forward, informing expectation. As the town continues to listen, night feels less uncertain. Sound creates a map of presence. It tells people where life continues, even in darkness. We will explore how sound and silence shaped sleep itself, and how medieval people rested within a world that was never completely quiet. As listening continues through the night, it gradually merges with rest. Sound does not disappear when sleep arrives. Instead, it becomes part of it. Medieval sleep exists within a soft layer of awareness, shaped by the quiet presence of the town around it. People do not expect perfect silence. They expect familiarity. The mind rests more easily when known sounds remain steady. The fire murmurs, wind brushes the walls. Somewhere, a distant animal moves. These sounds form a background that allows sleep to deepen rather than interrupting it. Sleep itself is lighter than what many people experience today. Without heavy bedding or complete darkness, bodies remain responsive. A sudden noise can wake someone briefly, but it does not usually lead to alarm. Waking is temporary. A moment of listening confirms safety, and sleep returns. Shared sleeping spaces reinforce this rhythm. One person waking often wakes another, not through noise, but through movement. A shift of weight, a change in breathing. These subtle signals are understood without words. The group settles again together. Dreams are influenced by sound. A distant bell may appear in a dream as a church. Wind may become movement. These dreams are not vivid or frightening. They are shallow, easily released upon waking. Night does not pull people far from awareness. It keeps them close. Children often wake more icily than adults. Their sleep is lighter, their senses still learning what to trust. Adults respond calmly. A hand rests on a shoulder. A quiet word reassures. Sound is explained, not dismissed. Over time, children learn which noises matter and which do not. Illness changes how sound is experienced. A sick person listens more closely. Breathing is monitored. A cough is noticed. Night amplifies concern, but it also allows careful attention. Those awake for long hours listen not for danger, but for change. For the elderly, night listening becomes habitual. Sleep comes in shorter periods. Waking is accepted. They listen to the town, to the house, to their own bodies. This wakefulness is not restless. It is calm, observational. Night offers companionship through sound. Rain alters everything. When it arrives after sunset, it reshapes the night entirely. Roofs receive it softly or sharply, depending on material. Streets absorb or reflect it. Rain masks other sounds, creating a protective curtain. Many people sleep more deeply under rain, trusting its steady presence. Storms are different. Wind and thunder demand attention. Yet even then, response is measured. People listen for structure, the pattern of wind, the distance of thunder. Fear is tempered by familiarity. Storms have passed before. As night continues, sound gradually thins again. The deepest hours approach. Even animals grow quieter. The town seems to hold its breath. This is not emptiness, but pause. In this pause, sleep deepens for many. For others, wakefulness lingers gently. Sound and balance each other. Neither dominates. Both inform. As dawn nears, the soundscape shifts once more. A bird calls tentatively. Someone moves early. The fire is stirred. These sounds are not intrusions. They are signals of continuity. Night is preparing to release its hold. We understand that medieval nights were not defined by silence, but by listening. Sound-guided behavior shaped rest and created reassurance in the dark. We will turn our attention inward, exploring how night influenced thought, memory, and emotion, and how medieval people used darkness as a space for reflection rather than fear. As we begin, we pause quietly and remember the last gentle moment. The town had learned to listen. Sound had guided rest, softened fear, and allowed sleep to arrive without force. Now we turn inward, away from streets and walls, and toward the inner life of the night. After sunset, darkness does not only change what people see and hear, it also changes how they think. Night invites a slower kind of thought. Without daylight tasks pressing forward, the mind drifts more easily. There is less to react to, fewer decisions to make. In this space, thoughts unfold gently, often returning to familiar paths. In medieval towns, night is not a time for planning far ahead. It is a time for reflection close to home. People think about the day that is past. What went well? What did not? These thoughts are simple and personal. They do not demand solutions. They simply exist for a while, then fade. Many thoughts return again and again. Concerns about food, health, and work are common. But at night, these worries lose some of their urgency. Darkness makes problems feel less immediate. Tomorrow feels distant enough to allow rest now. This quiet postponement is one of night's gifts. Memory becomes more active after sunset. Without distraction, the mind revisits earlier moments. Conversations replay softly. Faces appear briefly, then disappear. These memories are not sharp. They are blurred, like images seen in low light. Their edges soften, making them easier to carry. People remember others who are absent, family members who live elsewhere, those who have died. Night encourages this remembrance without ceremony. There is no need to speak names aloud. Thinking is enough. Silence holds these memories gently. Religious belief shapes much of this inner life. Night is often associated with reflection, humility, and dependence on forces beyond human control. Evening prayers are not dramatic. They are repetitive and familiar. Their words require little thought. This allows the mind to rest within them rather than analyze them. Even those who are not deeply religious participate in these habits. The structure they offer is comforting. Night thoughts can wander without becoming lost when framed by routine prayer or quiet ritual. Children experience nighttime thought differently. Their imaginations are still forming. Shadows can suggest stories. Sounds can become characters. Yet these imaginings are guided by adults. Explanations are offered calmly. This is the wind. That is the house settling. Understanding replaces fear before it can take hold. For adults, imagination is more restrained. Fantasy exists, but it is tempered by experience. Night does not invite wild speculation. It invites review. The mind checks in with itself, then settles. Loneliness, when it appears, feels different at night. During the day, absence can feel sharp. At night, shared darkness creates a sense of connection. Knowing that others are also resting, also listening, also thinking quietly, reduces isolation. Time feels wider after sunset. Minutes stretch. Moments linger. This does not cause impatience. It encourages acceptance. Without clocks marking each passing hour loudly, time becomes something to inhabit rather than measure. The body participates in this mental slowing. Breathing deepens. Muscles loosen. Thought follows physical relaxation. The mind learns when to release control. For those who wake during the night, thoughts may briefly sharpen. A worry surfaces. A memory insists. Yet the surrounding quiet contains these moments. There is no pressure to act. Most concerns are returned to the dark, left there until morning light makes them manageable again. Night, in this way, becomes a holding space. It receives thought without demanding resolution. It allows reflection without consequence. As we rest here, within the inner stillness of medieval night, we begin to see that darkness was not only endured, it was used. It offered space for memory, belief, and quiet emotional balance. We will continue this inward movement, exploring how night shaped feelings of hope, fear, patience, and acceptance, and how emotional life adjusted itself to the long hours without light dots. As night deepens and thought slows, emotion begins to settle into its own quiet rhythm. In medieval towns, feelings after sunset are rarely intense. They do not surge or demand expression. Instead, they move gently beneath awareness, shaped by darkness and rest. Hope at night feels different from hope during the day. It is smaller, quieter, and less specific. People do not imagine great change while lying in the dark. They hope for simple things. A peaceful night, a healthy morning, enough strength for tomorrow's work. These hopes are modest, and because of that, they feel attainable. Fear also softens after sunset, once routines have been followed. Doors are closed. Fires are secured. Family is near. When these conditions are met, fear loses much of its power. It may still exist, but it no longer dominates emotion. Familiarity keeps it contained. Patience grows naturally in the dark. With little that can be done immediately, waiting becomes easier. People learn to accept delay. Questions are postponed. Decisions are deferred. Night teaches that not everything needs an answer right away. This patience carries emotional weight. It reduces anxiety. It allows feelings to rest without being resolved. In a world where daylight demands constant action, night offers permission to pause emotionally as well as physically. Sadness, when it appears, is quieter at night. Tears may come, but rarely in dramatic form. Grief is held inward. Darkness offers privacy even in shared spaces. Someone can turn slightly away, let emotion pass, and return to stillness without explanation. Joy, too, becomes gentle, a shared warmth. a remembered kindness, a soft laugh that fades quickly. Night does not amplify joy. It preserves it, keeping it small and manageable. Anger finds little room to grow after sunset. Darkness discourages confrontation. Without clear sight and full energy, disputes feel heavy and unproductive. Most disagreements are postponed. Emotional restraint becomes a form of social harmony. Over time, this nightly pattern shapes emotional expectation. People do not seek emotional extremes at night. They expect moderation. This expectation reduces internal conflict. Emotions learn when to rise and when to settle. Children absorb these cues early. They sense when emotions are meant to quiet. Nighttime behavior teaches them emotional regulation without instruction. Voices lower. Movements slow. Feelings follow. Night also offers relief from comparison. During the day, people measure themselves against others. At night, these comparisons fade. Everyone rests. Everyone withdraws. Differences matter less in the dark. For those lying awake, emotion sometimes surfaces without clear cause. A vague unease, a gentle contentment. These feelings are allowed to exist without explanation. There is no need to name them. Naming would require effort. As dawn approaches, emotional tone begins to shift again. Anticipation returns slowly. Concerns sharpen slightly. Yet this transition is gradual. Night releases its hold with care. We see how medieval nights shaped emotional life toward balance rather than intensity. Darkness did not suppress feeling. It guided it gently toward rest. We will explore how memory, storytelling, and shared meaning helped communities process emotion collectively during the long hours after sunset. As emotions settle and the night holds them gently, memory and meaning begin to move more freely. In medieval towns, the hours after sunset are not only for rest and reflection. They are also for remembering together, even when words are few. Shared memory exists quietly, passed through habit, story, and repetition. Storytelling often happens in the evening, but it is not dramatic performance. It is slow and familiar. Stories are told many times, often in nearly the same way. Their purpose is not surprise. It is continuity. Hearing a known story in the dark reassures listeners that life follows patterns, even when the future feels uncertain. These stories rarely focus on great events. They center on ordinary people, small lessons, and moral balance. A clever decision, a patient response, a mistake gently corrected. Night favors stories that calm rather than excite. The mind receives them easily without effort. Memory is strengthened by repetition. The same phrases, the same pauses, the same ending. Over time, stories become part of the town's identity. People carry them forward without thinking, ready to be spoken again when night returns. Not all memory is spoken. Much of it remains silent. People remember ancestors, past winters, former neighbors. These memories arise without invitation. Darkness provides space for them. Without visual distraction, the mind turns inward and finds what has been stored. This inward movement is not overwhelming. Memories surface briefly, then fade. Night does not demand that they be examined closely. It allows them to exist, then pass on their own. Shared rituals also carry meaning through the night. Simple actions repeated each evening create collective memory. Locking the door, saying a prayer, checking the fire. These actions connect the present to the past. They remind people that others have done the same thing in the same way. Many times before, religious rituals play a strong role here. Evening prayers are often communal, even when spoken individually. Everyone knows the words. Everyone expects the rhythm. This shared structure provides emotional grounding. It places personal concern within a larger, familiar pattern. For children, these rituals teach belonging. They learn not through explanation, but through participation, standing quietly, folding hands, listening. Night becomes a time when they feel part of something older and steadier than themselves. Music, when present, is simple. A quiet hymn, a repeated melody. No one seeks performance or applause. Sound exists to support memory, not to impress. The night accepts simplicity more easily than complexity. Even silence carries shared meaning. Sitting together without speaking becomes a form of connection. The absence of words does not signal emptiness. It signals understanding. Everyone knows why the silence exists. It belongs to the hour. Over generations, these nighttime practices shape how communities understand themselves. They create a sense of endurance. The town has passed through many nights. It will pass through many more. This belief does not require proof. It is reinforced nightly through habit. As people drift toward sleep, memory and meaning soften again. Stories end, prayers conclude, thoughts quiet. What remains is a gentle sense of continuity. Life is held together not by constant action, but by repeated stillness. We see that medieval nights offered more than rest. They offered a shared emotional language, one built from memory, ritual, and quiet presence. Darkness made room for meaning without demanding attention. We will turn outward again, exploring how danger, uncertainty, and rare disruptions were handled after sunset, and how medieval towns maintained calm even when the night did not unfold as expected. We return gently to the outer edges of night, where calm is the norm but certainty is never complete. Most evenings pass without interruption, guided by habit and restraint. Yet medieval towns also understand that the night can change without warning. When it does, response is shaped not by urgency, but by practiced steadiness. Disruption after sunset is rare, and because it is rare, it stands out. A sudden shout, a bell rung unexpectedly, the smell of smoke carried on still air. These moments do not cause immediate panic. Instead, they invite attention. People wake more fully, but they do not rush. They listen first, as they have learned to do. Fire is the most feared disruption of the night, not because it is dramatic, but because it spreads quietly. A spark unnoticed in the dark can grow quickly. For this reason, towns are prepared in simple ways. Buckets are kept near doors. Wells are known by memory. When a bell rings for fire, movement begins. But it is organized by habit rather than command. People know where to go and what to do because they have thought about it before. Night drills are not rehearsed formally, but instructions are shared during daylight. If fire comes, this door, this bucket, this order, familiarity replaces fear. Other disturbances are handled similarly. A cry for help draws listening first, then response. Doors open part way. Voices call out names. Identity is confirmed before action. This careful approach protects both those inside and those outside. It prevents mistakes in the dark. Illness is another form of nighttime disruption. A sudden fever, difficult breathing, pain that cannot wait for morning. In these cases, the town responds quietly. A midwife or healer is called. Neighbors assist without gathering. Light is brought sparingly. The goal is not spectacle, but care. Weather can also disturb the night. Strong winds unsettle roofs. Heavy rain floods streets. Snow blocks doors. These events are met with acceptance rather than resistance. People secure what they can and wait. The night is allowed to pass on its own terms. Crime after dark exists, but it is limited. Darkness does not encourage bold action. It encourages caution. Thieves rely on quiet and familiarity rather than confrontation. Most townspeople understand this and respond by minimizing opportunity rather than increasing force. Doors are secured. Valuables are put away. The night is not challenged. When disputes occur after sunset, they are rarely resolved immediately. Darkness is seen as an unfit time for judgment. Voices rise more easily. Details are harder to confirm. Most disagreements are postponed until daylight, when clarity returns. This delay prevents escalation. The town watch plays a quiet role during disruptions. Their presence is steady, not aggressive. They move toward sound, not away from it. They observe before intervening. Their authority comes from consistency rather than strength. Children are sheltered from disruption as much as possible. Adults speak softly. Explanations are simple. Fear is managed through calm behavior rather than reassurance alone. Children learn that disruption can occur without chaos. After a disturbance passes, the town returns to stillness quickly. There is no prolonged discussion at night. Reflection waits for morning. Sleep resumes where it can. This ability to return to rest is a learned skill, developed over many quiet nights. Disruption does not define the medieval night. It interrupts it briefly, then releases it. Calm is restored through routine, trust, and shared understanding. We see that medieval towns did not aim to control the night. They aimed to move through it, prepared, attentive, and patient. We will continue examining uncertainty after sunset, focusing on rumors, superstition, and the stories that arose when the night left room for the unknown. As the night stretches on, uncertainty sometimes takes a quieter form, not in sudden sounds or urgent bells, but in whispers, half-formed ideas, and thoughts that arrive when light is absent. After sunset, imagination has more room to move, and medieval towns learn to live carefully with what cannot be fully explained. Rumors travel differently at night. During the day, information moves openly, tested by many voices at once. At night, it moves slowly and privately. A comment shared near the fire. A concern mentioned in a low voice. These fragments are not meant to alarm. They are meant to be considered, then set aside. People are aware that night makes the mind more receptive. Shadows soften boundaries. Familiar places feel slightly altered. Because of this, nighttime rumors are rarely treated as fact. They are acknowledged, then held loosely. Daylight will decide what matters. Superstition exists, but it is restrained. Medieval townspeople live close to uncertainty in many forms, whether illness, harvests. The unknown is familiar. Superstition at night does not erupt into fear. It settles into small protective habits. A charm placed near a door. A symbol drawn quietly. A prayer spoken twice instead of once. These actions do not demand belief. They offer comfort. Their value lies in repetition, not proof. Night allows these gestures to exist without judgment. Stories of unseen forces often surface after dark, but they are rarely described in detail. Vagueness keeps them manageable. A presence felt rather than seen. A path avoided rather than explored. These stories encourage caution, not panic. They support the same behaviors that safety already requires. Children hear these stories filtered through adult calm. Explanations are softened. Fear is redirected toward respect. The night is not dangerous, they are told. It is simply different. This framing matters. It teaches awareness without anxiety. For adults, superstition blends easily with routine. People do not debate what they cannot see. They adapt quietly. If a place feels uneasy at night, it is avoided, not because danger is expected, but because there is no need to challenge the feeling. Daylight will return. The church often provides a counterbalance to uncertainty. Religious language offers explanation where none is visible. Darkness is framed as temporary. Order is promised beyond sight. These ideas settle unease without demanding understanding. Even skepticism exists quietly. Not everyone accepts stories or signs. Yet disagreement is not argued at night. Night is not for debate. It is for rest. Questions are postponed until morning, when clarity feels possible. Dreams sometimes contribute to uncertainty. A troubling dream may linger briefly after waking. Its meaning is not pursued immediately. People know that night reshapes thought. Dreams are allowed to fade with the dark. The town itself absorbs much of this uncertainty. Its walls, routines, and shared habits act as anchors. When thoughts wander, the presence of others restores balance. Knowing that neighbors sleep nearby, listening to the same night, reduces isolation. Uncertainty after sunset is not eliminated. It is managed through familiarity, restraint, and shared understanding. People do not seek to explain everything. They seek to remain steady. As the night moves closer to dawn, these uncertainties lose strength. Light has a quiet authority. It reveals details, dissolves speculation, and returns the world to recognizable shape. Here, in the later hours of darkness, we see how medieval towns made room for the unknown without allowing it to dominate. Night held questions gently, then passed them on to morning. We will continue our journey through disruption by looking at rare events that truly broke routine, and how communities remembered and learned from nights that did not unfold as expected. As we move deeper into the rare moments when night does not pass quietly, we find that disruption leaves a lasting impression, not because it is dramatic, but because it stands apart from routine. In medieval towns, unusual nights are remembered carefully, spoken of softly in the days that follow, and gradually folded into collective understanding when an event truly breaks the pattern of night. A serious fire, a sudden death, a violent storm. People do not dwell on it immediately. After the moment passes, the town returns to rest as best it can. Sleep resumes unevenly. Silence returns, but it carries weight. Reflection waits for daylight. Morning brings the retelling, not as gossip, but as accounting. What happened? Who was there? What was done? These conversations are calm and deliberate. They are not meant to assign blame. They are meant to restore order through understanding. Nighttime disruptions are remembered with attention to detail. Sounds are recalled. The order of events is traced. Who woke first? Who rang the bell? Who responded? This careful reconstruction strengthens future response. Memory becomes preparation. These events also reinforce the value of restraint. People notice what helped and what did not. Calm movement, clear voices, familiar routines. Panic is rarely remembered as useful. Steadiness is. Stories of unusual nights are told later in the evening, not to frighten, but to instruct. They are shaped gently over time. Details soften. Meaning becomes clearer. The night is framed as difficult, but survivable. This framing matters. It keeps the memory from becoming fear. Children hear these stories differently. They sense importance, but are guided toward reassurance. Adults emphasize how people helped one another, how order returned, how morning came. The lesson is not danger. It is endurance. Over time, these memories influence behavior subtly. A door checked more carefully, a bucket kept closer, a sound listened to a moment longer. Night routines evolve slowly, shaped by experience rather than rules. Even rare crime leaves a similar imprint. If something occurs after dark, response is measured. Daylight investigation follows. Changes are made quietly. Night itself is not blamed. Human behavior is adjusted instead. Weather events leave quieter lessons. A roof repaired, a drain cleared. Preparation improves. Night teaches through repetition and exception alike. Importantly, towns do not allow rare disruptions to redefine the night. Most nights remain calm. Most evenings end as expected. This balance is preserved intentionally. Memory acknowledges difficulty without allowing it to dominate expectation. Religious interpretation often helps here. Unusual nights are placed within a larger narrative of order and meaning. This does not explain everything, but it contains uncertainty. It allows people to sleep again without waiting for answers. As time passes, even the memory of disruption settles. It becomes one night among many. Its sharpness fades. What remains is knowledge. Night can change, and still it can be endured. We see that medieval towns faced uncertainty after sunset, not with fear, but with patience, memory, and shared calm. Disruption was absorbed, understood, and released back into routine. We will move toward the closing of our journey, exploring how age, time, and the passing of years shaped nighttime experience, and how medieval people carried their relationship with night across an entire lifetime. As we begin, we move gently away from single nights and seasons, and towards something slower and wider, time itself. Night in a medieval town is not experienced only day by day. It is carried across years, shaping how people age, remember, and grow accustomed to darkness over a lifetime. For children, night begins as something guided entirely by others. They are told when to sleep, where to lie, and what sounds to ignore. Darkness feels large at first. Rooms seem deeper. Shadows feel important. Yet every night repeats the same message. You are safe. You are not alone. Morning will come. Over time, this repetition builds trust. As children grow, night becomes less mysterious. They learn the house by memory. They recognize the sounds that belong. They understand which fears matter and which fade on their own. Night stops being an unknown space and becomes a familiar interval between days. Youth brings a different relationship with darkness. Energy lingers later. Curiosity increases. Young people may sit closer to doorways, listen more intently, or walk short distances after sunset when allowed. Night feels like a boundary worth approaching, though rarely crossing. Caution still holds, but interest quietly grows. Adulthood reshapes night again. Responsibility becomes central. Sleep is valued not as escape, but as preparation. After sunset, adults think about the next day. Work to be done, people to meet, tasks waiting for light. Night becomes functional. It restores what daylight spends. For parents, night is also watchfulness. They listen more closely. A child's breathing, a movement in the dark. Their own rest is lighter, shaped by care. Night teaches attentiveness without tension. Vigilance becomes habitual rather than exhausting. As years pass, night becomes more predictable. Adults know its patterns well. They know how long it lasts in each season. They feel its arrival in their bodies. Evening fatigue, morning stiffness. Darkness aligns with physical rhythm rather than imagination. Old age brings another quiet shift. Sleep changes. It comes and goes. Waking at night becomes common. Yet this wakefulness is not restless. It is reflective. Older people listen without expectation. They sit with night rather than passing through it quickly. Memory grows stronger in these hours. The mind revisits earlier nights, past homes, familiar voices, people long gone. These memories are not summoned intentionally. They arrive gently, then depart. Night offers time without pressure to move on. For many elders, night feels companionable. The world slows to a pace that matches their own. Darkness does not rush them, it waits. This patience is appreciated. Night becomes less about rest and more about presence. Across a lifetime, night teaches acceptance. It cannot be shortened or extended by will. It arrives and departs on its own terms. Learning this early makes later nights easier to endure. Communities reflect this aging process collectively. The town remembers nights long past. Fires survived. Winters endured. Quiet evenings repeated thousands of times. These memories create a shared confidence. Night has always come. It has always passed. People speak of time in relation to night. How many winters? How many long evenings? Age is measured as much by nights lived as by days worked. Darkness becomes a marker of endurance rather than absence. As we pause here, we begin to see that medieval night was not something to be solved. It was something to grow into. Each stage of life brought a new understanding of it. We will continue along this lifetime path, exploring how habit, memory, and expectation shaped the final years of night experience, and how people prepared themselves, quietly, for nights they would no longer see as life continues forward. Night begins to carry a deeper weight of familiarity. It is no longer something noticed each evening. It becomes assumed. People do not think about the coming of darkness with curiosity or concern. They prepare for it without reflection, as they have done countless times before. Habit shapes this stage of life strongly. Evening routines are followed almost without awareness. The door is closed. The fire is checked. The same seat is taken near the hearth. These actions no longer feel chosen. They feel natural, as if the body remembers them on its own. Expectation also settles into place. People know how the night will feel. They anticipate its length, its quiet, its effect on the body. Surprises are rare, and when they occur, they are managed calmly. Experience has softened reaction. Nothing about night feels urgent anymore. Memory begins to overlap with the present. An evening now feels similar to many that came before it. This does not dull life, it steadies it. Each night confirms continuity. The world remains recognizable. The rhythm holds. For those approaching the later years of life, night becomes a time of gentle accounting, not in the sense of regret or judgment, but of recognition. Life is reviewed without effort. Moments surface uninvited. Some are clear, others are blurred. All are accepted without struggle. Sleep during these years becomes lighter and more segmented. People wake easily and often. Yet these awakenings are not disturbing. They are moments of quiet awareness. A person listens to the house, to the town, to their own breathing. Nothing demands response. This wakefulness creates space for patience. Time no longer feels limited in the same way. Night stretches, but it does not feel empty. It feels available. There is no need to fill it. Simply being awake within it is enough. Many elders speak little during these hours. Conversation feels unnecessary. Presence replaces speech. Sitting together in silence becomes common and comfortable. Shared darkness removes the need for explanation. Faith often deepens here, not through intensity, but through calm acceptance. Night prayers become simpler. Words are fewer. Meaning is carried more by tone than by language. Trust replaces request. For those without strong religious belief, a similar calm emerges through familiarity. Night has always been survived. It has never required certainty. This understanding becomes reassuring. Communities recognize this stage quietly. Older people are not expected to move much after sunset. Their stillness is respected. Others listen more carefully when they speak, knowing that their relationship with night has been long and patient. As years pass, night becomes less about rest and more about continuity. It links past and present gently. Each evening resembles another, forming a chain of experience that feels complete rather than repetitive. The town itself mirrors this process. Buildings age. Stones were smooth. The night touches them all the same way it always has. Darkness settles into familiar places. Nothing needs to change for it to feel right. As we rest here, we sense that night, over a lifetime, becomes less of an interval and more of a companion. It asks little. It offers steadiness. We will move toward the final stage of this journey, exploring how medieval people understood the final nights of life, and how communities faced endings with the same quiet patience that guided every sunset before it. As life reaches its later stages, night takes on a meaning that is both familiar and quietly profound. It is no longer simply a time between days, nor only a space for rest or reflection. For many medieval people, night becomes a gentle companion in the awareness that time itself is limited. The final years of life are often marked by increased stillness. Movement slows. Evenings arrive earlier in the body than they do in the sky. Fatigue settles in gently, not as weakness, but as a signal to rest. Night welcomes this change without judgment. It does not demand productivity or alertness. It accepts what remains. For those nearing the end of life, sleep and wakefulness blend even more freely. Long periods of rest are interrupted by quiet moments of awareness. These moments are not filled with urgency. They are soft and observant. A person listens to the house as they always have. The sound of the fire, the breathing of others, The familiar creak of wood thought during these hours is calm and unforced. There is little desire to analyze the past. Memories appear on their own, often simple ones. A childhood evening, a shared meal, a familiar voice. These memories do not demand reaction. They pass gently through awareness and leave no disturbance behind. Fear of the dark is largely absent. Night has been encountered too many times to feel threatening now. Its rhythms are known. Its silence is understood. What once felt uncertain now feels expected. Darkness becomes a place of rest rather than concern. Communities respond to these final nights with quiet respect. Voices lower naturally. Movements slow. People sit nearby without speaking much. Presence matters more than conversation. Night provides privacy even in company, allowing each person to experience the moment in their own way. Religious customs often frame this time, but without drama. Prayers are spoken softly. Words are familiar and repeated. They do not attempt to explain or control. They simply accompany. Night holds these rituals easily, as it has held many others before. For those without formal ritual, the night itself provides structure. The steady passing of hours, the gradual shift of sound, the approach of dawn. These patterns reassure without explanation. They remind people that life has always moved forward in this way. The final nights of life are rarely described as different from other nights. They feel quieter, but not unfamiliar. This familiarity brings comfort to both the individual and those around them. Night does not isolate. It gathers gently. After death, night continues for the town without pause. Fires are lit, doors are closed. Sleep arrives as it always has. Grief exists, but it does not overwhelm the rhythm of evening. Darkness holds sorrow without amplifying it. Morning will come, and with it, remembrance dot over generations. This continuity shapes how medieval communities understand endings. Life concludes not with spectacle, but with stillness. Night does not mark an ending sharply. It allows transition without disruption. We see that night across a lifetime becomes a guide toward acceptance. It teaches patience early, steadiness in adulthood, and calm in the final years. Darkness, once a boundary, becomes a familiar presence in the final part of our journey. We will step back and look gently at the whole. We will consider how medieval towns lived with night as a constant companion, and how this quiet relationship shaped a way of life that moved steadily, peacefully, from sunset to dawn again and again. As we begin the final part of this long, quiet journey, we pause gently and look back without effort. Many nights have passed in our telling. Sunsets have softened into darkness. Darkness has eased into dawn. Through it all, the medieval town has remained steady, shaped not by single moments, but by repetition. Night, for these towns, was never an interruption to life. It was part of its structure. Each evening arrived with familiarity. Each morning returned without surprise. This reliability shaped how people trusted the world around them. After sunset, life did not disappear. It narrowed, it slowed, it drew inward. This inward movement was not a loss. It was a form of care. Care for the body, which needed rest. Care for the community, which needed quiet. Care for the future, which depended on endurance. The town itself learned this rhythm over generations. Buildings were shaped to hold warmth and shadow. Streets were arranged to discourage unnecessary movement at night. Customs formed that required no explanation. Everyone knew when to withdraw and when to return. People carried this knowledge in their bodies. They felt evening before seeing it. Fatigue arrived at the right hour. Voices softened naturally. Light was used carefully. These habits did not feel restrictive. They felt sensible. Night also taught humility. Darkness reminded people of limits, of how little could be controlled, of how much depended on patience. This humility reduced conflict. It encouraged cooperation. It allowed life to continue without constant strain. Over time, night became a shared experience rather than a personal one. Everyone rested together. Everyone listened to the same silence. This collective pause reinforced belonging. Differences mattered less after sunset. The dark treated all households the same. Even hardship was softened by this rhythm. Long winters, illness, loss. Night did not remove these things, but it gave them a place to settle. Grief was held quietly. Fear was reduced through routine. Waiting became possible. Memory played an important role here. Each quiet night reminded people of those that came before. The town had survived other darknesses, other winters, other uncertainties. This memory lived not in books, but in habit. Children learned these lessons early. Without instruction, they absorbed the rhythm. They learned when to quiet themselves, when to listen, when to trust that morning would return. Night became part of growing up. As adults, they carried this rhythm forward. As elders, they rested within it. Night remained consistent, even as life changed. This consistency provided comfort in a world where little else could be guaranteed. Looking across centuries, we can see how deeply this relationship with night shaped medieval life. It encouraged balance rather than excess, endurance rather than urgency, presence rather than distraction. The town did not conquer the night. It lived alongside it. Darkness was neither enemy nor mystery. It was a companion that arrived on time and left when it was ready. As we rest here, at the beginning of our final closing, we allow this understanding to settle. The medieval town does not rush toward dawn. It trusts it. Night has done its work. We will allow this journey to conclude peacefully, gathering these quiet observations into a gentle farewell and letting the town and ourselves drift slowly toward rest. As the final night of our journey continues, we do not introduce anything new. Instead, we allow everything we have seen and heard to settle into a single, calm understanding. Medieval life after sunset was not built around events, but around return. Each night returned people to themselves, to one another, and to a rhythm older than memory. What made night gentle was not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of limits. Darkness limited movement, speech, and ambition. In doing so, it protected energy. It reminded people when to stop. In a world where survival required effort, knowing when to stop mattered as much as knowing when to work. The medieval town trusted this boundary. It did not attempt to push past it. When light faded, the town folded inward without complaint. This acceptance reduced tension. People did not feel deprived by night. They felt guided by it. Over generations, this guidance shaped character. Pat noticing patterns, slowing reactions, listening before acting. These qualities were practiced nightly, reinforced through repetition rather than instruction. Night became a teacher that never raised its voice. Community depended on this shared pause. When everyone withdrew at the same time, no one was left behind. The night created equality through stillness. Wealth, position, and labor mattered less when fires burned low and voices softened. Everyone rested under the same dark sky. Even solitude at night was different from solitude during the day. It did not feel isolating. Knowing that others were also resting nearby created a quiet sense of togetherness. Night connected people through absence rather than presence. The lack of artificial light played a powerful role in this balance. Darkness was complete enough to demand respect, but familiar enough to feel safe. It shaped sleep naturally. It protected dreams from intrusion. It allowed bodies to follow their own pace. As centuries passed and towns changed, this relationship with night slowly shifted. But in the medieval world, before constant illumination, night remained whole. It belonged to no one and everyone at once. There was wisdom in this arrangement. A life shaped by cycles rather than constant motion allowed people to endure uncertainty without becoming consumed by it. Night absorbed what day could not carry. As our journey draws closer to its end, we do not need to summarize or conclude in the usual sense. The medieval night has already done that work. It has shown us a way of living that values rest as much as effort, quiet as much as speech, patience as much as action. We remain here for a moment longer, letting the town settle once more. Fires dim, breathing slows, the familiar silence returns. Nothing more is required. In the final section, we will allow the town to drift fully into rest, and we will leave it there, not with an ending, but with a continuation, trusting that night, as it always has, will pass gently into morning. Now, at the very end of our long and quiet passage, we allow the medieval town to do what it has always done best. We allow it to rest. There is no signal to mark this moment. No bell, no announcement. The town simply settles, as it has settled countless times before. Doors are closed. Fires are reduced to embers. Voices fade until they are no longer needed. Night completes its gentle work without asking for notice. Nothing here feels finished in a sharp or final way. That is not how medieval nights ended. They dissolved. One moment gave way to the next, without ceremony. Darkness did not declare itself complete. It simply held the town until holding was no longer required. People sleep now in the same familiar arrangements. Bodies close, blankets shared, breath rising and falling in slow, uneven rhythm. Dreams come and go without urgency. Some are remembered, most are not. It does not matter. Outside, the streets are still. Stone cools, wood settles. The town seems to listen to itself, just as it has learned to do. Nothing presses forward. Nothing pulls away. This balance feels natural, earned through repetition. The night sky, unseen by most, stretches quietly overhead. Clouds drift. Stars appear and disappear. These movements do not influence the town directly, yet they remain part of the same rhythm. Above and below, everything moves at its own patient pace. In this world, night has never been an empty space to escape from. It has been a place to remain, a place to pause, a place where life continues in its most minimal, essential form. The medieval town does not imagine tomorrow in detail while it sleeps. It does not need to. Morning has always arrived before. Light has always returned. Trust has been built slowly, over thousands of nights like this one. When dawn comes, it will not break the night abruptly. It will loosen it. Shadows will retreat. Sound will return. Work will resume. and the cycle will begin again, unchanged and dependable. For now, nothing is required. The town rests. The night remains. And in this stillness, there is no lesson to extract, no conclusion to force. There is only continuity. And so, we leave the medieval town as it prefers to be left, quiet, intact, unhurried, resting gently within the dark, waiting patiently for the light to return, as it always does.